Oh, it's live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lesson 10. That good?
Of that introduction.
Dude, that was well done. The lesson can be over now. That was so awesome.
Okay.
Oh, I thought so too. I thought if I just gave that my all, we can say that was amazing and we can just go about our business.
Nice.
But this week's lesson wasn't as hard as Tyson's last week, and I'm so excited. But so we're talking about the TSA incident that happened at the Logan Airport.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys or all you guys have had a chance to kind of review what we're talking about or what we're going to be talking about tonight.
I have
Yes.
reviewed.
I reviewed it.
Good. So, how many of you, after reading this, would want to be a TSA agent?
Dude, that's not a job that I would ever dream of wanting to do.
I agree. I don't think that I would. No.
I travel like 10 or 11 days a month, so I'm in the airports a lot, and there's no way that I want to be one of those guys. Not a chance.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that one. Now, before I get all like disgruntled or whatever, I just want to make sure no one's ever been a TSA agent because I'm not frowning upon you. I think that takes some skill to be a TSA agent. Has anyone ever done this job before?
Nope.
Negative.
Can I ask a question?
So we can talk as much crap as we want.
John, can you tell me why you don't want to be a TSA agent? Can you tell me why?
Because I see they get a large amount of abuse from travelers that are like, they have zero idea, like it's all about themselves, and these guys are just trying to do their job and protect us and protect the country. But they get serious amount of abuse. Now there are some of them that like having that power, but overall these guys are disrespected and abused by the travelers. That's why it's bad.
I look at this aspect, but there's another aspect of it. If you looking at the weight of the responsibility they have, if something happened for any reason, they didn't do their job thoroughly, perfectly, meticulously, and something happened, you see the weight of the responsibility is high on them, on top of all the abuse they have, but they pay. It's another problem for me. If they got all those responsibility and they don't pay them really for the job they are doing.
I agree with that. Yeah, that starting pay is not good. You could work at McDonald's and make more than that.
That's not right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so now that we've established that none of us have been TSA agents, none of us really want to be TSA agents, let's just imagine like we are. What would be something that you would like about your job, and then what would be something that you would dislike about your job?
Don't everyone talk at once.
Well, I think the coolest thing would be the blue uniform.
Nice. And the badge. And the badge, right?
And the cool gloves.
For me, I think it would be the X-ray machine because I'm very nosy and I like looking through people's things.
There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. I'm glad you said looking through people's things instead of looking at people's things. You know what I'm saying? Because that could go one of two ways, girl.
Yeah, that's true.
Through like their luggage, and then
I think that there would be some level of knowing that you're helping protect the country. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there would be some level of satisfaction knowing that what you're doing is making a difference. So I think that would be a good thing.
One of the things I always appreciate anytime I see somebody in uniform, like a military, I always got a sense of gratitude. And if I got that chance to walk through to them and talk to them, I always thank them for what they are doing, because I know somehow it's safer than if they weren't acting. I see it
Yeah.
the same way when I saw those guys like at TSA. I would consider myself like somebody who's trying to make mothers and fathers and children and brothers and sisters to meet together tonight because they got a safe trip. I would appreciate that I'm doing that. I would love that. But open people's bag, see all those stuff I don't want to see. No, this one I don't like it.
I have to admit, Judex, that your connection is very good this time. I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, same
I
here.
don't know. I don't know what happened to that computer. It fell. Probably I think it was be completely broken. Because of that, probably the connection is better. I don't know.
It's good, man. It's nice.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree. Okay.
I was gonna say another thing is I bet being a TSA agent, you could probably work anywhere in the country, you know, and still get a job, because if you're an agent one place, it's like doing the same thing anywhere else, you know. So if you were like the adventurous type and wanted to move around, you could probably get a job with the TSA anywhere.
That's a good point.
Didn't think about that. I like that. Okay, so we're gonna move forward with that in mind, that we're pretending to be a TSA agent. Now, O'Reilly and Sanchez. The question of the lesson basically is, what should O'Reilly do about Sanchez?
She's in an interesting spot, right?
Yeah.
Are you asking, like, you want to know our opinion? What do you want? Because
Yeah, I'm John. I what would you what should she do if you were in her shoes, or you had the responsibility to kind of tell her, you're going to be, you're going to act on this, but this is what you need to do. What would you have her do?
Well, obviously something needs to be done. There's no question. Obviously, Sanchez is a good guy. He's done good things. He's taken on shifts. He's been reliable. He's been a guy. I mean, he was talking on the phone with his daughter, which is one of those deals, right? Like, I mean, I've done that a lot. I don't have a job that I'm protecting the universe either, but I think that something needs to be done. My thought was on this, that whatever needs to be, whatever happens, whatever she decides to do, it has to be something that others are going to see happen. Because if they do it behind closed doors, perceivably, because it's all about perception, everyone else will be like, oh, nothing happened. This big breach happened and nothing happened, so no big deal. So whatever happens has to be done outside of closed doors, what can be, right? So I like the idea of maybe doing a temporary, I think they didn't call it a demotion, but like a reassignment, a temporary reassignment,
Yeah.
So he'll get a corrective action sort of a thing, a talking to, and then he'll get a reassignment for a period of time, whatever is decided on, so that until he can kind of prove himself that he's ready to take on more responsibility again, with the understanding that if it happens again, that it will be escalated. So I like when we talked about this discipline without punishment thing, it's similar to kind of what my company does right now, but I think you have to kind of establish, you kind of give, you can demote, you can reassign him, and then you say, next time this happens, this is what you can expect to happen. You know what I'm saying? And then if it happens again, then you've already set the expectation and the consequence. So he knows if it happens again, you're losing your job, for example. But I think people need to see what happens to an extent, and then he needs to understand what will happen if it happens again, especially if he gets reassigned back to that higher post. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Does anybody else have any suggestions?
Well, I am with John on that. I think there are so many things. People got too much immunity on some error that happened, and we can see it on the biggest scale. A lot of people, because they are important, because they got that name, because they got fame, they can do whatever they want, driving, talking on the phone, or on TV or whatever. It just happened. Yes, guy. But we have to understand when an error happened, for everything to have a consequence. And I think the consequence is not to punish him. It's a signal, it's a lesson, not only for him. Maybe he doesn't even need that. But for the sake of the institution, for the other people who are working there, who think they can do the same thing Sanchez have done, they have to do something. And I don't think a warning is appropriate for that, because it's a big responsibility, and that can cause a lot of problem, not only in Logan Airport, but even throughout the world, and affected people from nation who could be in that airport or in the airplane. So for this, I think for big responsibility, they should take big measure as well.
Well, I was going to add that, and I'm sorry, Tyson, I just want to add a little bit here. The company has to understand too that whatever they do, it sets a precedence. So the unfortunate thing is we don't know what precedent has already been set. So I'm assuming that they haven't set one yet at this airport. So O'Reilly has to understand that whatever she does, she has to do it again next time that happens if somebody else does it. Because if she, for example, slaps this guy on the wrist and it happens again, then she can't do something differently, because then it puts the company in a bad position. So whatever she does, she has to be consistent in doing it time and again, just to set a precedent. So
unless, John, unless there is a letter getting out, like a warning to point out this happened, this is the final, the last time. Because if
exactly.
if at the beginning they said people should not use phone while working, and somebody use it, they just give that warning. They can extend that warning. It's like everybody have done it. Everybody got that warning. If that happened to anybody else, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So yes,
I agree.
Sorry, Tyson. That's your turn.
No, you guys are fine.
We saved the best for last, Tyson. The best for last.
I'm at a loss for words. No, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying, especially about the precedent thing. I kind of agree with you on that one, John. She'd for sure have to make a calculated decision on that one. Just because, you know, if that ever happens again, they got to have the, you know, just, I guess, the willingness to make that precedent solid and be like, you know what, this is what we did with the last guy, and this is what we have to do with you, you know? So that's my 2 cents.
So I get to be the devil's advocate. But no one thought he should be fired. With the delay of 45 minutes, you know, 5 minutes makes a difference in an airport. You can miss your next flight pretty quickly, you know, with just a slight delay. And, you know, with a couple of terminals and a couple of planes having to hold on for a bit, you don't think that's a fireable measure? No one?
I don't. And let me tell you why. Because I travel so much, I've seen planes get delayed because the mechanic screwed something up. And I'm pretty sure the mechanic didn't, like, you know what I'm saying? Delays happen all the time in airports. And for people that travel all the time, they just understand that, because for those that were delayed, it's not like they make an announcement that there was a security breach. So as far as the travelers are concerned, they just think that it's a delay. You know what I mean? There's a weather pattern, whatever the case is. There's no announcement made that of the reason why there was a delay. If that was the case, there would be pandemonium. So I think that it's just right along with the delay. I agree. 45 minutes is a long time. I've sat in an airport on a 4-hour delay one time, you know? So at the end of the day, I know it's an egregious amount of time to wait, but for travelers, it happens. It's a risk that they take, you know, and there's a lot of things that cause delays. Should somebody who doesn't predict the weather good lose their job because of delay? You know what I mean? So that was a devil's advocate of a devil's advocate.
Yeah, you know, I kind of agree with what John was saying. I don't know if the magnitude of the situation was so severe that he needed to be terminated, you know. Just because, I mean, people do make mistakes and things happen. And so the best thing to do would just be, you know, have an assessment with them and, you know, let them know that that shouldn't happen again. And if it does, you know, then there's grounds for termination for sure. But yeah.
So, John, you mentioned that you thought that he should have a temporary reassignment, right?
Yes.
Would another option possibly be for him to take paid decision making, like a paid decision making day to kind of figure out what the next step would be for him in the company?
I think that there's a lot of merit in having the associate help with the consequence. So what I mean by that is I think it would be in Mina O'Reilly's best decision because she obviously has a lot of respect for him. I think that they both need to say, hey, something needs to be done. Here, I think Mina needs to let some groundwork out, like, here's some of your options. Here's what we're thinking. What do you think would be fair? And I think with him helping make that decision, then it makes it more powerful for him, right? With a little bit of coaching. So if he says, you know what, let me have a day to think about it. Let me figure out what's going on. Let me talk to my wife. Obviously, I like my job. You know, I think that's a win-win scenario because when he comes back, he may even come back and say, you know what, I screwed up. I don't want to take any of those options. I'm leaving. That may be an option. But he may come back and say, this is what I'm going to take. And then it allows Mina the opportunity to say, okay, well, why are you picking that one? Let me help you. Let's figure out now what's your plans to get after you take this, whatever it is. Then what are your plans to kind of move forward away from this? And what are you going to do differently with your behavior? It gives her an opportunity then to kind of dissect what he's going to do behaviorally to make him a better person. To like what Tyson was saying, it's all about him. He's not a bad guy. He made a mistake. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. You said that he needs something other than just a verbal, right, for his punishments. So not punishment per se, but his disciplinary action. So how far would you think it needs to go?
I don't see any type of let him go. It's not in the table for me. But the notion of giving just a verbal warning, I don't think it should be appropriate for something like that. Because it's not something that happened between him and O'Reilly just personally. It's something public. Can affect a lot of people. That can compromise the reputation of the institution. And the safety as well. For that, I think if you do it publicly, like give him a temporary time where everybody can see there's a consequence. Because if you give a warning, it's not in a meeting, you're going to give the warning. If it's in a meeting, everybody heard that it's public, give a warning in the public. It's abject, it's law, but I don't think it's appropriate to do that. If you're going to do that, you're going to do it in your office. It's just between you and him, and the act was public. So instead of to do it this way, it should be something everybody can see is paying for what happened. It's not because you want to punish him, but it's set up an example. And I'm 100% with John on that. Give him some option, because most of the time we progress when we made a mistake. We can learn more from our mistake than from our success. So if you give him so many options, appropriate options, like if we apply this and that, and he can choose. Maybe you might not put it like a punishment, but looking at his caliber, like if somebody is so meticulous, he could say, you know what, I think this one is too light. For somebody like me, that should never happen. I'll take the heavy one. Of the example, because I screwed up, I have to show everybody that should never happen to me. So that should never happen to anybody else. So give him many options. It's really good as well.
Okay. So based off the options that we have, would it be appropriate to punish Sanchez to send a message to the airports, the public, and other TSOs, even if the punishment wouldn't improve Sanchez's performance?
I think yes, because I think everyone needs to understand, and they may make a public service. I mean, in a position like that, to Judex's point, that's a public deal. So O'Reilly might, or the TSA commission or whatever it is, they might end up having to make a statement based on this. You know, like, here's what we have done. This is the type of discipline that we have taken. Whether it changes what's his name's behavior, Sanchez's behavior or not, is irrelevant because it's a public thing. And the perception is people need to understand that something was done, and they need to feel like the company was all over it, okay? Because at the end of the day, the public doesn't care if he loses his job, so to speak. They just want to see that something was done. You know what I'm saying? And then once they've done that, then, you know, if his behavior doesn't change, they don't have to make that public. That's when TSA just comes in and says, listen, you know, we went out on a limb for you here. We did this, we did that. It's time for you to go because your behavior didn't change. So I think one of them is very, very public. And then there's also a very private side of it too. So.
Tyson, how do you feel?
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Now,
I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on it. I can agree with John at the same time, but I probably should have done a better job reading the script because I didn't read all of it in time, and so I'm gonna have to give you a pass on that one because I'm at a loss for words.
I do that. You'll catch on. It's pretty cut and dry, kind of, I guess. So, whereas it took Sanchez, he was negligent. Sorry, I'm gonna get you guys. I apologize. And in this case, it resulted in a 45-minute closure of the terminal, significant travel delays across the country, and embarrassment to the airport. PSA. How bad would it have to be for him to be fired? I mean, those are pretty high stakes there for one person to cause. And we all kind of agreed that, you know, delays happen. They're not gonna tell the passengers why the delay happened, but, you know, behind the scenes, everyone's gonna kind of know Sanchez screwed up. Okay, word's gonna make its way around. So how bad would he have to screw up to make it so that there would be no questions asked? He just has to be fired.
I think it's hard to quantify that because we don't have a lot of the background. You know what I'm saying? I think it all depends on his behavior and his attitude about it. Like if he gets demoted, so to speak, or reassigned, and he has a horrible attitude about it, and then, I mean, if he knows going in that, like, these are the things you cannot do, and if you do it, you're going to lose your job, then I think it's very, very simple. The company just can't be like, oh, well, we'll wait and see. They have to be very, very specific with what they expect of him going forward. Very specific, with specific consequences, because if he steps out of line with what they've already established, then they need to cut ties. It's all going to be about him, because at this point the company has done everything that they possibly can. Now it's on his watch. You know what I'm saying?
I think I agree with John. I think it is hard because, I mean, look at the incident with, was it like United Airlines when they pulled that Asian man off the plane? They just drug him off. You know, I mean, were those guys fired? We never heard if they were or not, but we do know that, you know, it brought a lot of attention to United Airlines and the way they deal with situations like that. And, you know, there's other incidences too with Delta. So it's kind of going around. That's not TSA, but it's just kind of another example of kind of like unique situations where maybe the person wasn't completely trained on what to do, and they kind of improvised and made the wrong assumptions or made the wrong decision. So, yeah, I mean, that is kind of hard to quantify, like John was saying, at least in my mind's eye too, because you never know. You have to figure out what the intentions were of the employee to see if they're worth being fired or not.
That's well said. Well said, and what their knowledge was.
Yeah.
And I also believe, like, I look at it like this way. I take a kind of a gospel approach. I know for a fact that some people have been excommunicated for something that some other people have been disfellowshipped for, and some other people have had and have nothing done. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you could have one act, for example, Law of Chastity Act, that somebody violates, and they're going to go to church court and they're going to get excommunicated. Then you have somebody that does the exact same thing and they're going to go to church court and get disfellowship, or somebody else that does the exact same thing and they get a slap on the wrist. So I think it's hard to quantify. You have to find out what the intent was and what their knowledge of this. Because if you go to the temple and you do and you have something against the law of chastity, that's much greater than if you are not endowed, right? Because of your knowledge. It's your knowledge base. Your knowledge base determines basically the consequence. Ignorance really is bliss. There is truth in that. And so I believe that, to Tyson's point, you cannot, it's hard to say because we don't know what his intent was, what resources he had, what kind of feedback he'd already been given previous to this incident, like his expectations, or even his skill and knowledge or his internal motivation. We have to be able to identify all those things before anything can be done.
One thing I was about to mention, probably, I think, John, you touched on it a little bit. Let me just elaborate more. The circumstance surrounded the behavior should be looking at as well. He's a great employee. He's a great guy. Logan Airport just get that big award because they've been so good at that incident happened. If we're looking around, he just picking up some different shift, 2 or 3 other shift to pay for his daughter's college. So that's some other aspect that they have to look at it as well, to see, is this guy really absorbed by work just to be responsible, to do his responsibility toward his daughter, that he doesn't even have a window to help his daughter. So that humanly, that's some other aspect that they can look at as well. I don't think for any, even though it was 45 minutes that affected the big airport, I don't think it should be right away fired. I don't think so. They could do it because by the time you did something out of the line, they have something to just fire you. But humanly, professionally, I wouldn't go there. I would looking at circumstances surrounding that behavior. He never got that before, unless they can prove that he did that before, that a second or a third time, so they can just grab. But you see, the first time that happened, and do something that more human, then just go to the extreme and fire him.
Okay, so I think we're in agreement that we shouldn't fire him. Fine, whatever.
Would you fire him?
I agree that we shouldn't fire him because I don't feel like he deserves to be fired. With the background that they've given us on his work ethic and his commitment to the company and the reason why he wanted to be a TSA agent in the first place, I don't believe that he was doing this to, shut down the airport, So we're going to move forward and say, do you think he was the only one at fault? Do you think he's the only one to blame for the breach? And so with that,
so you asked if it was his fault. Is he the one to blame?
Yeah, is he the one to blame? Exhibit 4 in our neat little packet. It kind of gives us the layout of a security station screening area. And if I'm correct, he was doing the exit lane. Is that where he was?
Yes.
And so everywhere else kind of has 2 people set up or 3 people kind of in that area to kind of watch out. They have there's a certain flow to it. You have the travel document checkers, and then you go to the lane where you get the x-ray machines and stuff, you kind of going through. Everyone's been to the airport, right? Had to go through TSA. So you have all these steps. But if you notice, there's kind of 2 people up here. So Sanchez is here, And then there's this guy over here who's probably supposed to help, you know, direct traffic, but he can also kind of watch out over here as well. Do you think he should be to blame as well?
Here's what, it's hard to say, right? Because we don't have all the facts, but I think it really boils down to what TSA has done to train their associates and what they told them their responsibility is. So maybe the exit lane monitor is all he's supposed to do is stand there and watch the people exiting. I mean, who knows what he's been told, right? So maybe maybe he has never been told that he can't talk on the phone. Maybe he doesn't know that. So without knowing that information, if he was told, hey, you're supposed to watch everything, you can't talk on the phone, then it would be easy to say, yeah, he's to blame. But we don't know exactly what their training looks like to the extent of, like, you can't talk on the phone, or if you do talk on the phone, it has to be less than 30 seconds. You know what I mean? I'm sorry I've been hijacking this conversation. Just a lot of passionate.
TSA policy forbids using cell phones on the job except in the case of personal emergencies after notification of a supervisor.
Just before you move,
hey, that's an emergency. His daughter wasn't doing homework. That's going to cost him a lot of money. Yeah, that's an emergency.
There's something pop up in my mind right now while you are talking about if he should be the only one to be responsible. You see, anything we do in life, only one thing I think is done that doesn't need any improvement. It's the creation. Never need to do remodeling or improvement in the creation. It's perfectly done. It's good. But you can remodel your house after years. You feel you should do this, or whatever you've done, security or whatever you think. With time, with event happening, you need to improve. I think this event could show TSA some weakness in their system, because at any time somebody can just come and run, hold everybody running at once. With that, they should have a security door or gate monitored by electronically. If that happens, somebody just run and pass like that, somebody behind the window and the window glass should just keep that door locked on, unless they know that person already checked. If they got any reason that person is not really checked, something is wrong, to do not have access to the open place where people can be exposed to the security system. So I think a gate, a stop gate would be really good to place, not because it was a mistake before, but every single day we need to see what needs to be done to improve our security system.
Okay, so in what ways did TSA contribute to the breach?
That is a good question. I might be stumped on this one.
I think the point I just made, it's something, it should not be the only one to the last. He's human. Just imagine somebody was coming for him to check, and that person, and he just clapped. He got a heart attack. He didn't feel good. At this moment, who was in front of him? 1, 2, 3 people. If they got bad, then they will just run because we have nobody to check me. I think in terms of security, put only one person for a really determinate point, it's not good. So if they don't put 2, 3 people, they should have a final security gate electronically controlled to stop. If there is a problem, they can stop that person before to reach that point where that person reach.
Basically, they kind of I don't know how much information we got on their policies or that are in place to kind of prevent security lapses, but basically, I'm gathering that, you know, it could be better. You know, maybe they need to reevaluate, because when they started it, you know, they had a goal in mind. They're doing great, but, you know, every so often they should reevaluate the process to see what they can do to make it better. So we're going to kind of move forward so we can get this done. I don't know where Tyson went, but we're kind of needing to role play, and I asked John and Danny to do it, but then Danny's gone today, so we're gonna kind of decide on O'Reilly and Sanchez. We're gonna kind of do the role play and decide what the choice is gonna be, and then we're gonna have the other classmates kind of observe what's happening, the reaction, and kind of decide as a group if we feel that O'Reilly did the right thing. So I guess at this point we can decide where we want to go with it, and then decide what the reaction from Sanchez would be. So since Danny's not here, I guess I'm gonna have to decide. Sanchez, I don't think that I can be O'Reilly because I know the outcome of this project. But I'm gonna go and say that you've been with the company for a really long time, and we appreciate all that you continue to do for the company. There was a breach in security, and our top priority is making sure that our public is safe. At this time, we are going to reassign you to another location, and then we can move forward from there. However, we do want you to know that if this happens again, that we can't take any chances and you will have to be terminated.
Okay, I'm down. Because let me kind of step outside that, because I know how serious it was, like, as a person. So there's a part of, if I'm Sanchez, I'm freaking out thinking I'm going to lose my job, right? Yeah. I'm already freaking out. So the fact that you're coming at me with that, I'm willing to take whatever. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, I'm good. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Let me prove to you that I'm not that guy, that I was negligent. I would own it, obviously. Yeah. But it also goes along, because my whole rebuttal was going to be, you know, I was going to go back to our core values. You see that in here? So I was going to go back to, like, our company core values. If you guys, like, dropped the bomb on me and fired me, then I was going to go back on, like, I thought we were a people of integrity and we respected one another. You know, I was going to read through that whole freaking thing and get it. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is, like, I would be grateful that you wouldn't fire me. I think I'd own it, and then it would make me feel better about my job and the company I work for, because then you stood by the values that you have in writing. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where I'm at. So
yeah, I agree. I think that they kind of have to take all of that into consideration. I mean, accidents happen, and yes, it is a breach in security, and yes, they need to take it seriously. But given his background and, like I said, his commitment to the business, I don't really see him as trying to be this person, you know, be the person who wants to drop the ball. And we have to take into consideration that he was starting another shift after he picked up an extra shift. So he, distracted, he could have been fatigued. I mean, there's a lot of factors in there that you kind of have to take in. Judith, as our one observer, did O'Reilly do the right thing?
Somehow, yes. Just talk to Sanchez about the consequence that should follow. Good. And for Sanchez himself, he did good. I would just add something. The first thing would just to apologize for what's happened, just to let you know that as serious I always take my job, but somehow I did have that to take care of. And unfortunately, that's happened while I wasn't so focused. Responsibility, I dropped the ball, and I promise I'll do the best that I always done to never let that happen. And I will prove again that this job, I take it to heart and take the blame, and take the consequence as he did. So that's only that. So everything is going well.
Thank you. So we kind of reviewed that role play. How would you tell someone that you respect and care for that they are not performing?
The same way you tell your kids that they're sucking. You know what I'm saying? You just tell them straight. You can't sugarcoat it. That's the thing. Like, too many companies right now try to sugarcoat because everyone's a winner. They can't offend anybody. Everyone's afraid that they're going to offend somebody. You know what? You cannot be that way. You have to just straight shoot them. Like, listen, I love you. You have done a good job in the past, but you really screwed up. And this is what you did to screw up. And this is what you can expect to happen if you screw up again. Kind of like your kids, man. Like, if you do this again, I'm taking your cell phone away for a month. And they know that you mean business. You know what I'm saying? So I've only taken it away for like 2 weeks. That's the maximum I've ever done because I can't handle it. Like, I'm just like, too much. Here, take it back. So, you know, anyway.
I took an iPod away last night. And after I put it back on the bed, and somebody comes and said, "Daddy, I love you." I said, "You love me after I put the iPod back on your bed?" Yes, that's so true. It doesn't have to be mean when they did something wrong, but you have to go straight forward. I love you. That mistake that I don't love you, but you have to go and address the mistake and let them know the consequence. For any action, they should know there is a consequence. If they don't know that, if you are afraid to do that, and you're gonna go and gonna get to a point we won't be able to correct it. So I think that's what parents need to do, and that's what administrators need to do. That's what leaders in the country need to do. That's what it is.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. So we're going to kind of wrap this up by giving our final decision on Sanchez. So let me recap and see if I've got it. We decided that we kind of want to, the options were to fire him. We said no, we didn't want to do that. To give him paid leave. I don't think any of us said that would be the route to go unless it was something he said he needs to think about with the choices that we've given him, or require Sanchez to receive additional training. Did any of us think that he needs some additional training? No?
Unless.
No, I don't think so. Not based on his performance.
No. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. And so as a group, we kind of determined that he should kind of basically be on a probation where he's going to be have a temporary reassignment of duty, and then he can, you know, either work his way back up or be terminated if it continues. Is that correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we've made that as our final decision, Sanchez, so what she finally did, because I know it didn't tell us not tell us what happened. The outcome was that Sanchez got a warning, but was not fired. So O'Reilly gave him a warning, didn't fire him. However, 2 months later, he caused another serious breach. It kind of gives us some questions about what we think we should do, but we've kind of already set it up that he will be fired.
Done.
Yeah,
we're not
going to do that.
He can go work at McDonald's.
What does this case teach us about discipline?
You have to have something in place as a company, but you can't change people. You can only try to change behavior. And so at the end of the day, if you've done everything you possibly can to try to change behavior and they don't change, then they have no choice but to go.
Yeah, there are some limit you should not cross. When you cross that limit, so you make a choice. They're not gonna fire him. He know the consequence. He choose to walk that door, so he just decide to go. And you have to be firm. Even if it's your son working in your company, he didn't respect the principle, the rules, the procedure. When it's the time for him to go, you need to go.
So that kind of wraps it up for today, but I have a couple questions that I'm supposed to ask about myself. So what was the most important thing that you learned from this case?
I don't know that I learned anything more other than just like kind of reestablishing what I already felt and what I already kind of have done in the past with my company. It was a good.
I am glad that when we were talking about give him a chance, we did set up the point. We didn't just let it fly like just a verbal warning and it's done. We did put some limit. If that's happened again, not because we know in his character, in his past, in his behavior before he would do that. I think he has a really good performance. But I'm glad that we did set it up in a way, okay, that's happened, this is what the consequences, but if that's happened again, this is gonna be final. I'm glad we did that because I didn't expect him to screw it up again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm surprised about that. So overall quality of today's discussion from 0 to 10, how would you rate it?
I'm gonna go with 10. Done. I'm going with 10.
Woo!
Your performance?
No you want peppermints? I'll find some peppermints.
No, you're talking about your performance, how you perform?
Oh,
yes.
My performance.
Oh, I'm gonna ask the teacher to ask you to do it again because you did so great.
Oh.
We cannot ask somebody else to do it.
You can just do it every time.
Yay! Thank you. And what did you like? Well, yeah, I think you already said that I did a good job. Okay, and what can I do better next time? This doesn't matter because this is my last time teaching.
I think unfortunately you were restricted by the people that were not in attendance. You know what I'm saying? So I think you did a great job adapting to what you had dealt, and I think you did fine. I don't think you could do anything different.
And I don't think you're gonna have it next time because I think you did that. Is that the second time you've done it?
Yes.
So you already passed. You graduated.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, you did good.
Since you're the only one in here who hasn't taught for a second time, would you like to teach next week?
I am on for the next time.
Awesome.
Perfect. Now we probably need to talk about our paper too, what we want to do. Since it's us three, we get a first choice.
Let me stop recording now, and then we can continue.